Welcome to the Becoming Eva podcast, where we discuss real-life issues from a woman's perspective.
Becoming Eva seeks to break the silence within the female community while fostering authenticity, transparency, and healing.
We're your hosts, Latoya Moore
and Maya Dawson.
Let's get started. What'd you do?
It was a light week for me, actually, with it being President's Holiday, so I was grateful. It was winter break in the area that we were in, so traffic was lighter. Meetings were lighter. I was grateful. Yes, it was a good week, though. How about you? How was your week?
It was wonderful. Yesterday we had like a dance for my son's preschool.
Oh,
and so
cute.
we all went together, my husband and I, and our daughter as well. So it was fun.
I love it.
Awesome.
I love it.
And I was off for 2 days, and one child was off for 3 days, and then the other two were off for 4 days. So it was kind of a crazy week for me balancing our schedule and work and things like that. But it was nice and relaxing for a few days off from work.
Yay, that's always a good thing. Always. All right, Becoming Eva fans and family and universe and all that good stuff, we have a guest in the building today, if you haven't noticed. So,
Yes,
Latoya, if you can introduce our special guest today.
Yes, we're so excited to have Dr. Cassandra Bolar for our rules of engagement topic today. So I just want to talk a little bit about who she is. She is a healthy relationship advocate who truly believes in the capacity for change and positive transformation for couples. She has committed her life to improving the relational well-being of couples and families. The legacy of healthy relationships begins with you is a principle she hopes will inspire couples to set a positive course for their intimate relationship that could potentially impact future generations. She brings a wealth of experience in counseling, relationship education, and research, and she has been making contributions to the field for the past 12 years. Do you want to add anything, Dr. Bolar?
No, enough about me. But yes, I'm really excited, honestly, to be here and to engage in this conversation because it really is so important when we're thinking about the value that relationships add to our lives.
Absolutely.
And we all have the capacity to grow in our relationship skills. And so that means that we all have the capacity to grow in the value that we add to the other people in our lives and honestly ourselves. So
Excellent.
Thank you.
Yes. Have you listened to any of our episodes?
Well, I just got introduced to your work, so I only have had an opportunity to listen to one.
That's okay.
Okay.
Yes.
We
Well,
still
I
new
was
to the
just
game. It's all
wondering
good.
if
Okay.
you heard the episode in which someone nominated you for a Noble Character.
No, not that one. I thought that was quite kind, though. I know that you made a reference. I was like, oh, wow, that's so kind.
I wanted to tell you about episode 2, The Whole Woman, so make sure you check that out because
Okay.
someone actually submitted your name, and I wanted to tell you what they said.
Yes.
Oh, my goodness.
This person said, I think Dr. Cassandra Bolar deserves recognition as a virtuous woman. She has her own great things going, like publishing a book, creating curriculum for premarital counseling people, teaching at a university, and more. But she is very meek and humble in the way she prioritizes her and serves her family. She has 2 little ones who she takes great care of, and she took a year from her own career just to help her husband launch his chiropractic office. She demonstrates her love for God and her family even above building her own accolades, and her attitude and grace are remarkable.
Oh, my goodness.
Someone sent that in for episode 2, The Whole Woman, so make sure you go back and listen to that episode.
Yes.
Oh.
And everything they've said, I mean, as you were reading it again, I was like, oh my goodness, I see why they said that, because you just have this like beautiful meekness to you, which is awesome.
Thank you. I just come to recognize that it's not about me. You know, it's really about the people that I serve, and I can't get caught up in what I'm doing. If anything, I should be doing a little bit more if I can. So I'm honored. That's so sweet.
That is awesome.
So can you tell us, how did you get into marriage and relationship counseling?
Most definitely. So I actually thought I wanted to be a pediatrician. I've always loved children. And I realized that, hey, I don't like blood. I don't like hospitals. I don't think this will be a good fit. Maybe I need to change that. And so honestly, when I was in undergraduate school, I literally prayed and I was like, Lord, I need you to guide me. I know that I have a passion for children. And he literally guided me to my field of a specialty, which is human development and family studies. And then I said, what has the most impact on children? And it's their parents. And so how can we ensure a stable environment for them? It starts at the foundation. And so that's how I gained an interest in marriage and family therapy. But then also, too, I recognized that there are some educational skills, or there are basic skills that people almost need to be educated on.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes the idea behind therapy is that if I'm going to a physical therapist, then my body was probably functioning properly prior to that wound. But sometimes, you know, even through therapy, there's a, you know, maybe people weren't even functioning properly before that, and they haven't been educated on the skills needed to have a healthy relationship. And so that's why I love my approach. I love the educational piece as a preventative tool. Yeah, because we all can elevate our level of skill when it comes to navigating our relationships.
Very good. Very
That's
true.
Awesome. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot just by this, having you on our show today.
Absolutely.
That I can apply to my life and through parenting. What are the ages of your children?
Yes. I have a 14-month-old little
girl.
Congratulations.
Yes, I have a little girl, and I also have a 3-year-old son. So I have both.
Awesome.
Yes,
and how long have you been married?
And I've been married now, it'll be 6 years in this year.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Awesome.
yes.
We got married in the same year. It'll be 6 years for me, too.
Oh, congratulations.
Same to you.
So what are your top 3 healthy rules of engagement when it comes to dating and courting someone?
First, what is very critical is that you need to date with intention. And if you
I'm like, speaking to the mic when you say that, please come on up and say that again. What now? Date with what?
It's very critical to date with intention.
Okay. Because
you don't want to waste your time or the other person's time, because the one thing in life that we do not get again is we do not get time. And so when you're dating with intention, that means you're dating with purpose. And so what can guide you as well is, you know, it's not just recreational. Sometimes we look at dating from a selfish perspective as if I just want to have fun. But if that's just your only purpose, you're going to wake up one day and recognize I've wasted a lot of time. And that's actually disrespectful to myself and the other person.
Well, preach
so
on
it's
that.
very critical.
I'm just saying, preach on that.
You know, so it's just definitely very critical that you are dating with intentionality. And then also, too, that's going to kind of serve to narrow you and as well, you know, when you're dating aimlessly, it builds a sense of hopelessness. And hopelessness oftentimes causes us to engage in activities that are maladaptive. And so first, you know, you definitely need to date with intention. And then secondly, you know, you need to uphold godly standards for that process. Because at the end of the day, that person does not belong to you. And so you want to engage with this person in a way that doesn't undermine their overall emotional and spiritual well-being, because they don't belong to you. Even at the end of the day, you're still borrowing your husband. They still belong to Jesus. Come on now.
That's true.
You know, so you want to engage with this person in a way that is of utmost respect. And not only that, you know, when we take care of those godly standards and uphold those godly standards, it serves as a protection. And it serves as an emotional protection. It serves as a physical protection. And, you know, and what we do see is that, because with sex, okay, well, I'll just put it out there, right? So you know, so we are believers, right? And we believe in God's standard of, you know, maintaining celibacy before marriage. And see the thing about it is that sex is meant to bond you. And what is released when sex occurs is oxytocin. And that is the neurochemical that is in charge of bonding. And so what is happening is it's creating an illegitimate bond there. Okay. And we can't unwire ourselves. A lot of people say, oh, well, I can get up and move on. No. Chemically, your brain is becoming wired to this person. And God said, I want this to be done in the context of the safest place possible. Right? Which is the marriage covenant. Wow. And so when you engage in these godly standards, you are protecting yourself from an illegitimate bond prematurely.
Guarding your heart.
You're literally guarding your heart.
Yes.
And that's definitely something that's critical to do because this person doesn't belong to you. And if you don't get together, will that person's spouse have to clean up the aftermath of of how you engaged with this person?
That's amazing.
You don't want that.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
You don't want that.
You were coming in with some nuggets out the gate.
I know, dropping gems left and right.
Oh my goodness.
Date with intentionality.
It's amazing.
Yes.
But everything you said just points to the fact of how God designed a man and a woman, to become one in marriage, which is why he designed sex for marriage, because it all lends itself to you bonding, as you were saying, and becoming one, which is why it's so important to not engage in it outside of marriage. It's like, yes. Oh my gosh.
My sister, when sex occurs, God sees marriage, right? He told that woman, no, you have 5 husbands. I teach a human growth and development course, human growth over the lifespan. We talk about from conception to death. And gametes, right? So the female gamete is the egg. The male gamete is the sperm. In the Greek, do you know what gamete means? Marriage.
Oh,
it means
I didn't
union.
know that.
Wow.
And so, the two become one. Literally, the two become one. The two gametes come together and form a brand new person.
My goodness.
And that's what has the potential of happening with that, And I know I may seem like this old grandmother, don't do that, baby, don't do that. But I'm just like, just thinking of it in a protection way. It's so powerful.
Yeah.
The creation of life is so powerful. A marriage is the creation of a brand new entity. And so that's why I say first it's important to date with intention. Secondly, to uphold those godly standards and think from the long term. Is this person's life and their life purpose in alignment with mine? Or is there some type of compatibility there? Will they be supported? Because as an individual, I have a mandate on my life. And that mandate and that purpose, it never goes away.
Yes.
And so I want to get in a life partnership that's going to be able to support my life purpose and my mandate, because there's going to be a fulfillment for me that comes from exercising and operating in that. And I want to have a life partnership that is supportive of that.
Very good.
Now, for you, was that a process that you learned over time, or was it something that was taught to you by like your mom or your dad or someone in the church? Because I know a lot of people, especially in the African American community, our parents didn't necessarily have a lot of conversations. I know for me, as far as communication, in regards to dating. So how did you learn to date with intentionality?
I was afraid of dating for a while. Everyone was like, Cassandra, you're in school. Go get your degrees. Marriage can wait. Dating can wait. Oh, don't get sidetracked, But I remember one thing my pastor said. I was maybe about 16 years old, and it still sticks to me to this day. And he's no longer with us. He's passed. He's one of those old fathers in Zion, And he said to me, I remember where I was in the church. It was like maybe after a church service. And he pulled me to the side and he said, Cassandra, there's a work that God wants you to do, but I don't want you to get sidetracked or distracted by boys. And I don't want you to do things that, and he literally was like, don't get sidetracked. Don't let them pull you away. And that stuck with me. And he was talking about also sexual purity, and that thing, I don't know, but it hit me. It like, it just woke up and it resonated with me. And so he did, and then my parents did as well. My mom and dad were always very adamant about that as well. But the purpose piece was something that I've kind of picked up along the way. Mm-hmm. But the purity piece, I did, got that from church. But the purpose piece, we don't really talk about that much. The alignment of purpose or the complementary nature of the purpose. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think that's very powerful, even to our children, to start speaking those things and teaching them those things at an early age.
Absolutely.
So that they're prepared when they, pursue a courtship to have that mindset. Mm-hmm. So I think that's powerful.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for sharing that.
And modeling it out. I know what you were talking about. What's most impactful for young children are their parents. So when you see that courtship even still happening in marriage, that chivalry, that affection, that romance, all of that, it shows your children what a relationship should look like and how they should engage with the opposite sex, how they should be treated by the opposite sex. It kind of helps to lay that framework and set that standard for them. So that's amazing that you pointed out that's where it starts, really, with what they see in their parents.
Oh my goodness. It serves as a role model. And then their relationship lays an impression and an imprint of what's normal. And I remember I was in right there in the West End. We used to do a lot of work with the University for Parents. Susan Taylor's work. She's doing a lot of work to empower parents. Some beautiful work, mentorship work that she's doing. And I was teaching a class on parenting, and one of my beloved. Oh, she's awesome. She's so amazing. She was telling me about her granddaughter. And she said, my granddaughter came to me the other day and said that, I'm going to be a boss. I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be this successful businesswoman. I'm just going to, and I was like, this sounds great. I like this. And she said, I'm not getting married because I don't need a man. And I was like, oh my gosh, where did this message come from? Where did she get that from? Where did she get that from? But she didn't see those examples of a healthy marriage, and the examples that she's seen of relations between adults. She's like, I don't want that. And so how we're living, it sets an example and an impression upon our children, and it's problematic. And a lot of people think that whatever they're doing doesn't affect me. Everything affects us. We're just thinking about what's going on in our backyard and if our kids are okay. No, it is all impacting us.
I feel like we should have had you for like the last 3 episodes. So my goodness. But let me dip back just a little bit, because you kind of touched on a couple weeks ago, we talked about dating as an independent woman, and how honestly I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but that mindset can lend itself to not making room for a husband and not being open to having a healthy marriage. So do you have any thoughts or tips or rules of engagement as far as dating as that independent woman that so many women are taught to be today, the boss, the one that's,
I don't need no man to take care of me,
but
all of that,
but you cold at night,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I'm just saying.
And it has been indoctrinated into us as Black women in particular to be strong, to be independent.
Yeah.
And, and the reality is that our culture has not adequately prepared us for the adaptation that's needed as a woman in marriage. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, your man needs to be the man in the household. And we've been so used to being, engaging in these instrumental roles, sometimes out of necessity, yes. But there's an adjustment
Absolutely.
that's needed for marriage.
Absolutely.
And recognizing that you don't have to shoulder it all by yourself. Mm-hmm. You are not equipped to do that all by yourself. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take anything away from your strength. And, and we think that we have to be superwoman. But in our efforts to be superwoman, what's happening to us emotionally?
Wow.
When we look at heart disease for women,
mm-hmm.
what?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're trying to do it all. But our hearts are physically,
yeah,
and emotionally suffering. And so that we just have to make that adjustment and see that you don't have to shoulder all that weight. You have a partner. You have a man.
Come on.
Yes.
Come on. Let that man be the man.
You have a man now who can kind of assist you and support you with building this beautiful family, and let him step into that role.
That's so
Let
awesome.
him be that man.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to do it all anymore.
Great stuff.
So what are your top 3 unhealthy rules of engagement when it comes to dating and courting?
What should women be on?
Frivolous dating.
Well, come on.
Number 1, frivolous dating. Just like, I just want to have fun. And it's very selfish. And what happens is, if you get used to just wanting to get your needs met, that will not magically go away once you get married. And marriage is one of the most selfless, self-sacrificing acts ever.
Yeah.
And so if you're in the habit of, just, meeting your own wants and desires and needs and just dating frivolously, then what we do see is that the heart was not meant to be broken repeatedly. And actually, from the research, what we see is that actually multiple some people say, let's just go try it out, see what's out there. Sow your royal oats or something. Mm-hmm. Some foolishness is not of God. But they say that, and what we see from the research at the aggregate level is that multiple breakups give you a more callous heart toward marriage. Our hearts were not meant to be broken repeatedly. And what we also know is that the adjustment period, based on neuroscience, neuroplasticity of the brain, nothing more meaning that our brains are amenable to change, and our brains change by what we experience, our choices, and our actions. And so it takes time to kind of unravel your brain from that old person to this new person. We know how it is. We overreact to our current person, but we're really reacting to how someone treated us in the past.
Yeah.
And when you have all that going on multiple times, your brain has not unraveled itself around the experiences, the choices, and the actions that you had with that old person. Now think about that occurring multiple times. And so you engage in frivolous dating, and your brain is literally wired to your past.
That's powerful.
All right, frivolous
She's bringing
dating.
science into this. That's awesome.
It is. My goodness. Okay, so that's number 1. What's another thing that, and I would say women in particular should be on high alert or awareness regarding unhealthy rules of engagement?
Dysfunctional dating or dysfunctional relationships. And see, the thing about it, we know what's dysfunctional with regard to what's toxic, someone calling you out of your name, physical abuse, things of that nature. But if I am an appliance, I'm dysfunctioning if I'm not able to operate in my purpose. And so if my connection with this person detracts me from operating in my purpose, then that is a dysfunctional relationship for me. It's beyond the glaring red flags. It's the glaring incompatibility with my future.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So it's the incompatibility with my future. And of course, not upholding godly standards. We hurt ourselves. We hurt the other person. All of that can be definitely problematic.
So how do women get out of those relationships when they're stuck in those unhealthy relationships, when they're courting and dating? What are some steps that can be taken for them to get out of those relationships?
You're literally going to have to cut all ties, any type of connection, any type of, social media, what have you, phone. Like, if you really want to walk away and step away from this person, no, we cannot be friends. No, I do not need to see you and go out to lunch with you from time to time, because what has happened is what keeps people in that toxic relationship is not the current experience, it's the projected positive experience that they want to have with the person that they probably never even experienced. So this is the idealized version that they thought that they would have had with that person. You have to cut and sever that tie in your mind. You have to sever that tie in your mind and say, you know what? We broke up for a reason, and remind yourself of why you did that. And unscript that idealized version of that relationship that you thought that you would have with that person. And then you need to, honestly, get rid of everything they gave you. I know it might have been expensive, but that's a reminder, and that's a connection. You need to get rid of it. Get rid of all those cherished memories. And that takes time. It takes time. It does. It takes time. So give yourself grace. But do everything that's within your natural power, And that's the thing, too. My sisters out there, do not invest into someone who has not made a promise to you. Going on trips and things of this nature, and if it doesn't work out, then there's a heavier load for you for unpacking all of those experiences. Because you, in your mind, you have already thought about the wedding dress. You've already named the kids.
We sure have.
You've already figured. You've already been looking at houses. Oh, now I see us in there cooking breakfast.
Putting your new last name behind your first name.
You gotta make sure it sounds right.
You've been writing. Oh, that's cute. I like that. You made your new signature. And so you have invested before the market even knew your value.
My Lord. Say that one. Can you say that one more time? Please, I'm just saying.
Yes,
Can you please say that one more time?
So you have invested before the market knew your value.
Wow.
And then when you break up, then you start to question your value. But the reality is that your value is above measure, my sister. But you put too much in. Don't wash his clothes. What? That's for your husband. Don't get him used to you being his wife. No. There's some things that we reserve for marriage. It's not just sex that we reserve for marriage.
That's true.
It's not just sex. It's other things. But there are people out here being full-blown, full-fledged wives. I'm like, whoa, you're doing some stuff. I need to get up on that. I feel like you got some good. Yeah.
But you wondering why you know how to ring.
Yes, ma'am.
You wondering why you know how to ring. Because you playing a wife already.
Yes.
I didn't mean to cut you off. It just jumped in when you said it.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is so good. That is so good.
Can you talk with us a little bit about contentment as a single woman? Because I think oftentimes we kind of overlook that because we either want to be in a relationship or we just don't know how to be comfortable with ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
as single women,
Yes.
whether we're dating or not, like we don't know how to be comfortable and content because we are too busy thinking that companionship or being in a marriage is the end all be all. It's the solution to all our problems.
Maya, that is so good. And it's this arrival syndrome that once I've arrived, then that means I'm valuable because someone chose me to be their wife. But at the end of the day, if you don't get contentment down as a single woman, it's still going to be a struggle as a married woman. because at the end of the day, it's an illegitimate desire to require of your husband or your spouse, regardless if you're male or female, to require them to be your all in all and to be your source of happiness and fulfillment. And so what has happened, so Timothy Keller talks a lot about this. He's an amazing teacher on marriage. He's located in New York. But he talks about how contemporary people, the place that God used to have in our hearts and our lives as a culture, we want to put our partner in that place. And we know that there's only a God-sized hole in our hearts that only He can fulfill. And so I have to be full. I say one of the greatest assets that you can have in any relationship is having your relationship with Jesus Christ being strong.
Amen.
You know, because He can correct you and say, "Oh no, you need to go back and you need to clean that up. Oh no, you need to go forgive. Oh yeah, He'll check you in your quiet time.
Yes, He will.
You know, and then He'll encourage you in your quiet time, and then He'll fill you up. And if I'm empty and I'm requiring my partner to fill me up, it will never happen. And so I have to recognize, what does it take to fill my cup as a single woman? And I want to be full. I want to be full, because you'll enter into marriage and become disillusioned and become even more empty.
Wow. That's
Amazing.
powerful.
Yeah.
Because that applies even to married women, too.
It sure does.
Being content with themselves.
Absolutely.
And not looking for contentment in their spouses. Very powerful. So we want to talk a little bit about the rules of engagement for married folks. So we're talking about marriage. So what are the key rules of engagement regarding communication? I know that's a big one in marriages. So what are some key rules?
You know, Latoya, communication is your currency in marriage. And you utilize it to address every other part of your marriage. You have to talk about your finances. You have to talk about your sex life. You have to talk about raising your children. And so you want to engage in a way that doesn't undermine the integrity of the relationship, undermine the integrity of your spouse or even yourself. And so first and foremost, effective communication has not occurred until there's mutual understanding. And oftentimes what is happening, we're both trying to prove our point so badly and want you to see it from our perspective and see that I'm right.
And I'm going to keep arguing until you say that I'm right.
Yes.
I'm right.
I need it to come out your mouth.
Now I'm right. Now, so sometimes what I do in therapy is I'll take a little sheet of paper like this, and then I'll put a W on it, to where, Latoya, you would see the W, but I'm facing it toward you, Maya, and you would see the M. Who's right?
Oh my goodness.
Oh wow.
The way that you see it is how you see it, and there's nothing wrong about it. So my first thing would be, we need to get to the goal of mutual understanding, but then we also need to take our partner's perspective and be able to step outside of ourselves, because that's going to be a prerequisite to getting to that sense of mutual understanding. You know? And then lastly, there are 5 steps that I always talk about, is that when you're at 100 and you're very upset and you're traveling at 100, if you guys engage at that time, it may be an accident. So first of all, you have to be self-aware to recognize that I'm upset right now, and really engagement at that time will not be productive, because you're not even able to engage with the part of your brain that's in control of rational thought, which is your prefrontal cortex. You're at the lower level, primitive part of your brain, fight or flight. So first of all, you cannot engage at that level and be effective. You got to recognize within yourself, I'm traveling at 100, I'm going to cut loose. And I don't want to cut loose.
It's going to be a fight.
I don't want to cut loose. I love you, man. So I don't want to cut loose. So I need to calm down. And, but we don't want to table that situation for too long. We just want to table it to where we can re-engage, like physically, re-engage with the part of the brain that controls rational thought.
That's very good.
And then you know how people say, take a walk, you know,
Count to
count to
10.
10. That sounds trivial, but it works because it literally physically calms your body down, and you're able to re-engage as a smart person that you are.
Amen.
You know, and then from there, what's really the underlying emotion? Because we know it's quite apparent that you're upset, that you're mad, you're angry, you're hot. That's apparent. But the reality is that when I'm traveling at 100 and it's very apparent, what my partner is going to do is defend themselves. Because you're going to come out swinging with your words. So that's definitely not going to produce the effective communication that you want. And so, but what does is we want to create communication that creates connection. And I'm able to connect when I'm able to get in tune with the more vulnerable emotion that's actually driving my intensity. And that may even be hidden from me.
Wow.
So I need to dig down and realize that, yes, I'm angry, but at the end of the day, what I really am, I'm really sad. I'm a little disappointed. I'm hurt. And as my best friend comes to me and says, Cassandra, man, I'm so hurt. I'm sad about another situation. I'll be like, what's going on, my girlfriend? What's going on? I'm going to come with empathy. And that's what we want to do. We want to engender the compassion of our partner and the empathy. But when we're at 100, the only thing that they're going to do is either they're going to engage and escalate with us, or they're going to disengage. And 9 times out of 10, if it is a male, we do see this with the research, then more than likely he's going to disengage. He's going to stonewall. I'll talk about that with the unhealthy things, but you know, and but we have to be clear. So in communicating what happened, when did it happen, how did it make me feel in that vulnerable respect. And then I say stroke before you kick. You know, start with a soft startup. Speak to the good intentions of your partner. They probably didn't intentionally want to hurt you. Speak to that. Speak to how, you know, for the most part, I know, baby, you know, you do a real good job most of the time. But on Sunday night at 5 o'clock, this happened. And what happened, when it happened, and you know what? I was really angry, but I was really kind of hurt and disappointed and a little bit sad because of it. So instead, you got to tell them what you want to see instead. We have to teach people how to treat us well. We cannot assume. We can't assume. So next time, on a Sunday night, can you do this? And then follow it up with another sweet something, speaking to their good intentions. And say, you know what? I know you didn't do that on purpose. I know you love me. I know you don't even want me to feel like that. I know that's not your intention. And you know what? I love you too. And
I'm going to use that next time. Note to self. I'm definitely going to use that.
Yeah, that's easier to digest.
Yes.
See, I set the table, and I made you eat your green beans, but I set the table so nicely.
You didn't even realize you were eating
realize
vegetables.
I love it. I love it. Wow. Well, before we go into our next area of healthy rules of engagement, was there anything unhealthy that you wanted to talk about as far as unhealthy rules of engagement regarding communication?
Oh, definitely. So Dr. John Gottman, who's probably one of the most renowned researchers when it comes to examining the science of relationships. So he has what we call the Love Lab, and it's an observational apartment whereby it's very naturalistic setting. It looks like a regular apartment, but the participants are hooked up to equipment that can see their heart rate changes, as well as they take cortisol samples to look at their stress. And what he has found in his research, he's been doing this for decades, and he can predict up to 94% accuracy whether a couple gets divorced, because he follows the couples longitudinally. So he was looking at newlywed couples. There are 4, he calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Oh, my.
Because they're just that detrimental to communication. 1, contempt. 2, criticism. 3, defensiveness, and 4, stonewalling.
Okay, can you break down contempt?
Yes.
Like what? How would you define that?
So
in a
it's
relationship?
it's almost like ridiculing and attacking that person's personality.
Okay.
Yes. And so I have contempt towards you, and it's beyond. It's, you know how you criticize what they do?
Mm-hmm.
It's like criticizing them for who they are.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Okay. So contempt.
Criticism. Yes. You know,
Wow.
always critical of everything that they do. They can't ever do anything right. And then defensiveness. So they always wanted to, you bring something up, but hey, they're trying to defend their point. And then stonewalling is a complete shutdown. I'm not going to engage at all. I'm not going to talk. I'm going to ignore you. And that's very problematic. And what we do see in the research is that the person who stonewalls, physically, their bodies are more vigilant, and their bodies are actually physically more under distress. The person who is not engaging. So they say, oh, I'm trying to be cool. I'm trying to not engage and be cool. But literally, you're paining your heart physically when you do that.
My goodness. My goodness. There's a lot there. There's a lot there. Okay, we're going to move on. Okay, second rule of engagement. Healthy rules of engagement regarding finances.
Communication. And you can't, it has to, so first you have to have open and honest communication, because finances are not just finances. We all have a relationship with money. And oftentimes your relationship with money is very different from your partner's. And so you want to kind of even understand, what type of relationship does my partner have with money? And how can we come to an equal playing field when it comes to money? So first you need to definitely communicate about money. Is there going to be a particular amount that we're going to definitely talk about before we make those purchases? What is going to be our rules of engagement, our personal rules of engagement when it comes to money? And you have to have it written down.
And be in agreement.
And be in agreement.
That's good.
You have to have it written down and be in agreement. You need to have a physical budget. You need to have some physical financial goals. Like, you definitely need to have those things in place.
Very good. Any unhealthy rules of engagement regarding finances?
Secrets.
I got a secret account for this and that. No.
Secrets, not talking about certain things, going behind their back, doing things financially. Oh my goodness, that will definitely produce the seed of mistrust, and you do not want that when it comes to finances.
Good stuff. Very good stuff.
So now it's gonna get a little. The views will probably go up on this topic.
Spicy, saucy.
What are the key rules of engagement regarding sex in a marriage?
Communication. So what we do see in the So I actually just taught about sexuality last week. I teach a personal relationships class. So what we do see is that couples who communicate more about sex, then they actually have better sex lives. And so you need to talk about it. And I think there's a fear, talk about what you like, talk about what you dislike. And I think sometimes there's a fear that if I talk about this, then my partner will feel unliked, or, you definitely want to be sensitive when you're talking about these topics, but you need to communicate and not feel afraid to talk about your desires. And definitely we want to have a certain level of frequency. And oftentimes there may be a mismatching between sexual desire or libido, but you need to have an understanding and an agreement. Well, what is our frequency that will work well for us as a couple? Okay. And what we do see in the research is that, granted, there are different seasons to your marriage, or what have you, but couples who have sex at least once a week typically do well. So with people who do have sex more than that, then they don't have any more relationship, benefits than people who have sex at least once a week. But, so having that frequency is important. And then a lot of times people say, oh, well, I don't want to plan it because then it won't feel spontaneous. No, plan it. Put it on your calendar, especially when you're busy. If certain nights work better for you, it's okay to plan it. It doesn't take away the spontaneity. You can still make it fun and exciting if you.
Very good. Wow.
Those are some important key points.
Any unhealthy rules of engagement regarding sex in marriage?
Yes, most definitely. You never want to shame your partner, and you never want to make them feel less than, because this is a very sensitive topic. You know, self-image comes into play when we're thinking about sex. And then, you know, we have this romanticism view in our culture on sex, such that that sex is the end-all, be-all of the quality of the marriage or the and that's just not true. You know, granted, but what we do see is that the context of the relationship does play a role in sexual satisfaction. Definitely it does. You know, but that shouldn't be the only indicator that you guys are doing well. You know, it's so much bigger than that, and it starts before we get to the bedroom. It starts with it starts with how you're treating me. It starts with the affectionate touch, non-sexual affectionate touch. It starts there. It starts in the kitchen. It starts in the morning by you being nice to me, smiling at me, touching me, but little shoulder rub.
There you go. You getting them ready. That whole foreplay literally is key for women. I know, at
definitely
least.
Yes, for women,
yes,
for sure.
Yes, men can cut it off 5 seconds. That's all they need.
Exactly.
We're a lot different.
Women are like, can you put me in the mood, please? Yes. Can you be nice to me? Like,
yes. yes. And so oftentimes for women, we have a deep need for emotional connection, right? And oftentimes for men, they have a deep need for sex. And it's oftentimes with giving the sex that sometimes men open up and talk.
That's true.
You know? and
what do you mean by that?
Well, so oftentimes men feel this deep sense of satisfaction and connection, and then, you know, the afterglow, they may start talking.
Is that where pillow talk comes from?
Maybe so.
Oh.
Maybe so. But, you know, but not just sex, but recreation is very important for a man.
Yeah.
And talking and emotional connection is very important for a woman. And so when we engage in recreational activities, fun recreational activities with our husbands, then oftentimes it's during those times that they talk the most.
That's true.
And that's when they talk and bond with their boys. And so we need to be known as, hey, you can talk and bond with me too. I can hang, you know.
I love it. Oh, great stuff. All right. So if someone is in an unhealthy marriage, like everything you're saying, they're like, okay, we don't have that. We don't have that. Oh, my Lord. The 4 horsemen of the apocalypse are like on my back. They on our, like, you know, what are some steps that, you know, either spouse can take to, you know, help improve or shore up their marriage and get it moving in the direction of being healthy?
One thing I would say is that problems have a shelf life. I got that from Dr. Kirby. I can't take that. And you want to mobilize yourself in such a way to where you arm together as a couple to address whatever that problem is, even if that problem is you and your perspective. And the thing about it is that if it's not like abuse or something like that, you can get over it together. And sometimes you may need some stronger arms to hold you up. And so you may need some counsel. You may need maybe a mentor couple. You may need someone who's going to speak into the life of the marriage. And I always say that you want to find a friend of the marriage, just not your friend, because if it's just your friend, she may say, he may say, oh, well, I wouldn't put up with that, you know, but you want to be with someone who says, you know, we want the life of the marriage to live on. And oftentimes the thing about it is that you can get over those situations and develop a deeper intimacy that you even had before you hit that season. And so seeking out that support that you need to create a different strategy, because sometimes what happens is you get hopeless. You get hopeless. And you, one thing to remember is that you're in a covenant. And so you definitely want to fulfill your covenant responsibilities regardless of the input of the others, because you're in covenant with God as well. And so recognizing that every good seed that you plant, even when you don't feel like planting it, it will reap for you. It will reap a harvest for you in your marriage. And so be intentional on being the best version of yourself and getting strength to do so. And the thing about it is that you are contributing to a system. And so your positive contribution will positively shift the culture of the marriage, even if it is just you right now.
Wow. Very good. Very good. So you have given us a lot of gems, a lot of nuggets. I'm already going to be like playing this episode back and back and back. Like, wait now, let me get that. But if there was one key nugget that you could give, you know, as far as what someone should take away from this conversation, whether they're in a healthy relationship or they aspire to be in a healthy relationship, what is one key rule of engagement that they should embrace?
One key rule of engagement is that your relationships matter. And every day you want to make a positive investment in the relationships that you have, because relationship skills are transferable. Effective communication works in the workplace. If I'm married, if I'm single, it all works for me. And I want to grow I want this to be habitual. I want this to be like secondhand nature.
Very good.
To where it's not forced. It's just a part of me. Even when it's hard, but it's just a part of me. It's a part of who I am. And so I definitely want to, emphasize the importance of navigating relationships successfully, because Harvard, they conducted a 75-year longitudinal study that's still in effect to this day. The principal investigator, of course, who started the study is no longer with us. And so they've had several principal investigators over the years, but it's still ongoing to this day. And what the purpose of the study was to identify what predicts happiness and longevity across the lifespan. And what they found above and beyond any other factor was that close, loving relationships predict health and longevity better than any other indicator.
Very good.
So our ability to relate well is literally a matter of life and death.
Wow. Dr. Cassandra Bolar.
Yes.
You have given us so many tools and nuggets, and do you want to tell people, I know you're a therapist, do you want to tell people where your office is?
Yeah, give them your tags and everything, how they can find you, everything.
Yes, so I do a lot of work in Carrollton, but then also here in the Lithia Springs, Douglasville area as well. You can find out more information at upliftingrelationships.com. I also have a premarital program called Marriage Head Start, which helps people create a plan and a strategy for having a successful marriage. And it's not just something that you do before you get married, but it's an ongoing planning strategy to utilize for the lifetime of your marriage. And so I'm very passionate about that. I'm actually going to be tomorrow at a bridal show, because I always think that prevention is very key and critical. Absolutely. And I always say it's easier to prevent a fire rather than fight a fire.
Very good. You have any social media handles?
Yes. You're more than welcome. Facebook at Uplifting Relationships, and then also Dr._Cassandra at Instagram.
Perfect.
Thank you. All right. So now it's time for our Noble Character Acknowledgement segment. So if you know of a woman that you want to give praise to, a shout out, or recognize for making a difference in their family, neighborhood, or on their job, then please go to our website at becomingevatoday.com and submit their name in the Noble Character tab. And since we have Dr. Cassandra Bolar, today we're going to let you pick the woman of noble character for today's show.
Most definitely. I would like to nominate Miss Tina Lamar. She is just a phenomenal mother, wife. She's been married now for about 27 years, I believe. It'll be 27 years this year. And she just serves as such a wonderful example of a loving wife and mother. She, you know, a lot of times in today's age, especially as a driven woman career-wise, you know, people sometimes can put other responsibilities second and third. But her children and her husband have always been first. And she's very, and she keeps a clean house. you know, she's just, and she's sweet, and she's just, you know, she's that person who gathers the family together for big events, and she just loves people, and she loves pouring into the children at her school, and she's just a phenomenal woman, and I look up to her, and she, you know how you have people around you who help you uphold a high standard in your marriage, and as a parent, she serves as that for me. She helps me to be accountable, and I'm really grateful for her and our relationship.
Awesome. Awesome.
That is awesome.
So Maya, did you receive any feedback from last week's Becoming Eva challenge?
I got a lot of feedback about the episode. For the challenge, I haven't heard anything specific. So if y'all have some couples out there that you are linking up with to make sure that you're, you know, serving as a mentee or having mentors, please post that to our Facebook page, our social media, for our Instagram or Twitter. You know, we want to hear, you know, on YouTube, you can comment there. We just want to know if what we're, you know, putting out here is impactful. So feel free to, you know, share if you have engaged in any of our Becoming Eva challenges.
So this week's Becoming Eva challenge is, what are some healthy rules of engagement that you can incorporate whether you are married or dating? So listen to the episode, and Dr. Bolar gave so many different tips and advice. So I would incorporate some of those tips and advice.
Yeah.
I know that I am.
Me too.
For the marriage piece.
Yeah.
Communication was big in your, you know, in your most of the rules of engagement.
Absolutely.
Is communication.
Absolutely. And even, I know we highlighted, you know, rules of engagement if you're married or dating, but you even just talked about just the importance of healthy relationships, period, on your job, in your family. So even if you're single and you're not in a relationship, there are still nuggets here that you can benefit from. So I would encourage you to accept the challenge as well and highlight some rules of engagement that you want to embrace just in your day-to-day relationships. So yeah,
yes,
very good
I
stuff.
learned so much today. So don't forget, next week we're going to be talking about parenting with purpose, and we'll have special guest Pastor Neil Zimbrone next week. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on the podcast app. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Facebook at Becoming Eva, one word. Feel free to also share our posts.
Yeah,
share
please.
the post to all of your social medias as well. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Becoming Eva Today.
See you soon.
See you soon. Don't forget to like us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Click subscribe on YouTube and subscribe to the podcast.
Check us out at becomingevatoday.com.
Or email us at becomingevatoday.com.
See you next time.